We're live. Nothing is exploding like last week. Boy, what even was last week? Am I right, guys? Anyway, boys and girls, it's time to get your ducks in a row because we're talking about... Hello there! We're talking about mad scientists tonight, continuing on our celebration of the Halloween spirit in the Halloween season. Hi, Sean. Hi, Tara. Hi, Mr. Bishop. Just a disembodied hand patting me gently on the head. Anyway, this is something I've been looking forward to, and it's funny because, like, quacks, yep. I thought his entire arm was a goose head, and I almost lost my mind. Well, Sean, let's be completely honest here, okay? You lost your mind a long damn time ago, okay? Seriously, look at our family. Anyway, though. The mad scientist has always been my favorite motif, and it's funny because I've been laughing like all week getting into this, just because of the fact that I have a sinking suspicion I'm going to be the only one having a good time tonight. There is very little, if any, happy thoughts tonight. You know, usually you guys... Sean, stop bringing your filthy, filthy lies into this lovely... I'm sorry, I know you guys can't see it, but the bishop is just in the corner knocking back a drink. No. And it was funny that he just started doing that when I mentioned mad scientists. By the way, he's not a fan. That's one of the reasons I have to admit I've been kind of looking forward to this, because it's like, usually you all have so much fun at my expense, and tonight finally it's my turn. We're talking about something that I like, something that I'm going to have fun with, and everyone else is going to probably be cringing in horror. Because let's be completely frank and honest here. What is a mad scientist? What is mad science? Well, basically, it is a willingness, if not a desire, to push the boundaries of your knowledge beyond the exceptions of things like ethics, morality, personal safety, things like that. Everyone's just dogpiling on poor Sean that he's not normal. I remember Sean real quick. Sean, we for a long time legitimately were afraid you were actually an alien child. So, no, you don't get to say you're normal. He had a big head when he was a baby. Anyway. Anyway, though. Mad scientists. They've always been... Mr. Bishop is in trouble. Mr. Bishop, are you okay? What? He just randomly blurted out that he was in trouble. Mr. Bishop, I wasn't talking about you drinking. I was talking about the bishop in the corner. The guy who oversees the chat and stuff like that. Everyone's laughing and heart emojis up in the chat. But anyway, like I said, I've always... Okay, he says he's all right. Good. Freak me out, man. Like, I can't help you from where I am. Don't call me for help. I'm out in the middle of a desert surrounded by weird-ass creatures and stuff. Hi, Mom. But anyway, like I said, kind of a rocky start. But anyway, it's because I know deep down this is going to be, oh boy, howdy. You know, I always joked about how perfectly natural was the video that would get me taken down. And here I am. It's like, you know, what are we putting at the odds tonight that we're not finishing this stream? We're gonna have another power outage when I get into some of these horrible things. But anyway, and once again, my notes are so big that I'm gonna be closing out the chat. So don't yell at me about how amoral I am. I won't be able to see it until I check it later. But we're gonna talk about mad scientists tonight and real life mad experiments, but who is the new? Oh, this is just a little. Did you ever get this guy a name?
I didn't know.
I found this little bugger on the side of the road, and decided to get it for the bishop because I know the bishop likes snakes. Doesn't really have a name. Hi, Dad. Yeah, no, our new little skeleton friend doesn't have a name, actually. Of course, our duck friend here is Dr. Charge You a Lot. But no, we don't have a name for this little guy yet. But anyway.
Bone noodle.
Bone noodle? No. No, that sounds so wrong. That sounds like something you'd find on Disney Plus. Bone noodle. For the kids.
A bone noodle.
Anyway, though. And that's why I'm not monetized. Anyway, though. We're going to start off. Oh, of course. We are humanitarians around here. We love our animals. Especially the ones that are that are decaying. Boy, howdy. Anyway, though. But we're going to talk, before we can really talk about mad scientists, we of course have to talk about the name that made there even be a genre called mad science. Like let's be completely honest here. If it wasn't for this one, this would not be a thing. And like I said, the reason we're talking about this is because it ties to Halloween. Seriously, at least back when I was a kid, and even a couple of years ago, like any Halloween party you go to, there's a mad scientist there. There's something like that. It really is iconic to the overall feel of Halloween, and that's why I want to talk about it. Plus, I just love mad science. That's always been kind of my go-to theme. That and giant monsters. It's a skeletal snake. Anyway, though. But, of course, we have to talk about the original, Dr. Frankenstein. Now, it's interesting because Frankenstein, there's a lot of arguments about what's more important. The original book by Mary Shelley, which was written in 1818, which is roughly as old as your mother. Of course, people raise the comparison to the Universal monster movie, which is in 1945. And it's one of those things that it's weird because they both really were earth-shaking. Even in her own time, Mary Shelley was kind of controversial, mainly because of where she got the inspiration for the original book, which, by the way, was originally called The Modern Prometheus. They actually changed the name of the book to Frankenstein, after the main character, basically because they were afraid it wouldn't sell well in America. I'm not joking. Don't look at me like that. I'm being dead serious. They changed it because they were afraid that Americans would look at a book called Modern Prometheus and not know who the hell Prometheus is and would be turned away from it. Because Frankenstein is such a more, inviting name, right, than Prometheus. By the way, real quick, Prometheus was a character from Greek and Roman mythology. Was he a Titan or he was a man, wasn't he? Prometheus. He was a human, wasn't he? Sean can help me. Sean's an anthropologist. I can never get that story right. Prometheus was a man, wasn't he, Sean? He was a man who stole fire from Mount Olympus and gave it to humanity. That was Prometheus. I'm pretty sure it was a human. But anyway, well, I'm sure Sean will chime in with that later. Point is that they basically changed the name to Frankenstein, literally for American audiences, because we too damn dumb. But it was very controversial, actually, because first of all, unless you've read the book, it's hard to describe because it's actually very, very detailed. And that's because she actually sat in on several how do I put this politely? Lectures by various scientists of Europe at the time. There was one particular doctor, who of course I didn't write his name down, who had done experimentation with stimulating nerve endings in animals to make corpses basically jolt and get up and come back to life. She also took a lot of inspiration from Jewish folklore. The Frankenstein monster is essentially what the Jewish people would call a golem, but made of flesh instead of clay. What's also interesting is that, from what I understand, golems in Jewish folklore are actually holy. It's not an evil magic to make a golem. In fact, only a rabbi can bring a golem to life. One of the big other reasons that it was so controversial is because, and again, they kind of push this away in the movie, and we'll explain why in a minute, but in the original book, the reason that Dr. Frankenstein was doing his experiment, that he created the monster, was to challenge God. In fact, famously in the book, the scene when the monster's hand is moving on the table and he realizes he did it, he made the thing come to life. In the book, he shouts, "It's alive, it's alive. God in heaven, do you see? It's alive." Here's the problem, though. In the late 1940s and throughout the 50s, there were, how do I put this politely? I'm trying to remember what they were specifically referred to. Basically, there were religious laws. There were blasphemy laws. They didn't call them that, but they were laws for making films or books and so on where you could not say blasphemy. You also couldn't depict a priest as a villain, and things like that. Which, by the way, for the record, atheist, Christian, Jewish, I don't care what you are, stay out of the arts. Okay? If an artist expresses something that is blasphemous to your deity, they can come down from Mount Olympus and sort it out themselves. Okay? A government doesn't need to step in and tell you what's holy and what's not holy. That's just my personal perspective. I warned you I was going to tick everybody off tonight. But anyway, and a lot of people actually pushed back against Mary Shelley's original book. They said that it was Jewish slander, that it was blasphemy, and all this stuff. And to her credit, she refused to apologize. She straight up just told people, "Okay, I'm sorry you didn't like my book." She just went on her merry way. I see the joke I just made there. Mary Shelley went on her merry way. Anyway, now, of course, most people haven't read the book Modern Prometheus or the original Frankenstein. I've never even seen a physical copy personally. I've never actually seen a physical copy myself. That'd be cool, though. I have a physical copy of Bram Stoker's Dracula somewhere back at the house, but I've never seen a physical copy of Modern Prometheus. But anyway, years and years later, a long time later, 1818, it was picked up by Universal, and it was actually a very short production. I want to say they started filming production in like 44, and yeah, in about a year, less than a year, they had it ready to go, and they put it out in 45. But it had backlash too. It had, in fact, a lot of people famously know the opening scene from Frankenstein, where they would have this guy in a suit. I'm not sure who this guy is. I've heard different stories about who the guy is that actually steps out, and he says, "Good evening, folks. Before we start the picture, we have to be frank with you and say that it's so shocking, it's so horrifying, it's so disturbing. Well, we warned you." And then they started the picture because people were sincerely freaked out by this movie. And it's funny because this film, the original Frankenstein, 45, there are people who make the argument that it is the single most important horror film in human history. I know everyone's got their personal favorites. No, it's not a matter of favorite. It's a matter of this film had so many other things come from it. Comedically, and one of my favorite personal things is the horror Wilhelm. Now, for people who aren't familiar with cinema, there's a thing called a Wilhelm scream. It's a royalty-free sound effect that people put in movies basically when someone gets like shot or blown away or something like that. It's a very distinct scream. George Lucas himself is very fond of it, if I'm not mistaken. No, Lucas used the Wilhelm, didn't he? A lot, if I'm not mistaken. He loved it. But anyway. Every time I hear it, I laugh. I could be dead in my coffin at my funeral and hear that sound and I'd still smile. I love that sound effect. We actually used it. Now, I remember, we used it in Operation Sandbar. They heard it? Okay, good. I'm glad that you guys were able to hear that too. But that is the famous Wilhelm scream. Yep. It's been used in so many movies. Like, again, and there's lots of famous directors and producers who love to use that sound effect. The horror Wilhelm scream is not actually a scream. It's a clap of thunder. Because now you remember a minute ago I mentioned how they wanted to censor what the doctor says when the monster is getting up. You know, it's alive, God in heaven, do you see it's alive? Because again, in the book, his whole point was challenging God. That was the whole point of the book. He wanted to prove that man doesn't need God, that he could do just as well without him. And to be fair, the whole point of the story is basically him learning that that's not a power any man can wield or hope to control. A lot of people argue about, who's the real villain of the book and the movies, who, the monster or the doctor. And personally, I think both in their own ways. It's just it's a matter of flavors of evil. You know what I mean? They're both villainous. But anyway, I'm losing my point here. So they wanted to be faithful to the book. In fact, actually, in some points, they didn't have a script. They literally were just, what's it say in the book? You know what I mean? And they were like, this is what he says. And the actor, oh, Jesus, what was his name? He had a really generic, weird name. Started with a C.
Colin Clive.
Clive, thank you, Clive.
That's Henry Frankenstein, Dr. Frankenstein.
Yeah. By the way, fun side note, in the movie, he's Henry Frankenstein. In the original book, his name is Victor. I have no idea why they changed the name. But in Universal, it's Henry or Harry Frankenstein. In the book, he's Victor. But anyway, the actor, Clive, the cameras were rolling, and he said what was in the book. He said the line. He said the whole thing. And you got to remember something. This was back in the time frame when there's no such thing as a reshoot. Okay? You film it, you get it right, and you move on to the next scene. Which is funny because today in Hollywood, half the time they'll just do reshoots just so they have extra footage. I mean, seriously, have you seen half the bonus contents on those Blu-rays, for crying out loud? Seriously, $10 extra for a bunch of features that I never in my life have ever used. Blu-ray is the biggest freaking scam I've ever seen. And that's saying something, because I literally study weird like this. Anyway, and so they have it on the film. He said it. He said the whole line. And they're like, well, what do we do? Because they can't edit that scene out. They can't edit they can't edit out "It's Alive." That's like one of the most iconic things. So they got an idea. What they did was they went, and when they were finalizing the edits, they took this generic clap of thunder sound effect. And so, in the original production, when the doctor sees the hand moving, he starts saying the line. He says, "It's alive, it's alive." Boom, there's a clap of thunder that covers up him saying, "God in heaven, do you see it?" Or, "God in heaven, do you see?" That clap of thunder, for no particular reason, although I've heard some people say that people specifically use it because it was the Frankenstein thunder, but it, just like the Wilhelm scream, was constantly recycled and used in thousands of other horror movies. In fact, Scream 2, was it 2 or 1?
What?
It was either 1 or, I think it was 1. Yeah, because Stu was there. Because it was Stu in Scream 1 when Stu was talking to some one in the video rental store. They have Frankenstein playing in the background.
Yeah, that's one. And yeah.
Yeah. And that's where a lot of people heard that. It was, by the way, real quick, the original, I'd say the original 4 Scream movies. Some of the greatest horror movies ever, in my personal opinion. I love those movies. 5 and 6 were, well, there's been a decline. Let's just put it that way. Anyway, but that's kind of the point I'm getting to, is that this movie had a ripple effect. So many other things are still in horror today that come from that movie. And that's why there are lots of film historians and, what's the term? Cinemaphiles? Cinephiles, who will tell you that, yes, Universal Studios, 1945, Frankenstein, is the single most important horror movie in history. Because so many other things just come from it. For another great example is the fact that the only reason we have Universal Studios today is because of Frankenstein. They don't, it's funny, for a long time they denied this, but recently they've actually admitted it and acknowledged it. But in the 1940s, Universal Studios sank a lot of money into backing the Allied forces. They literally sent like film equipment and even photographers. You know all those like iconic little clips, those like 3 or 4 seconds of footage from like World War II of the soldiers marching or things like that? Yeah, those were mostly filmed by Universal Studios. The problem is, when you invest heavily in the U.S. military, well, any military really, you usually don't get much back, so to speak. Universal spent a lot of money to support the troops. Filming footage to use back home to keep morale up on the home front, bringing videos and footage and movie nights, so to speak, for the soldiers overseas. Yeah, these were all things that the studio took on itself. And the problem with good intentions is it tends to empty out your bank account. They were broke. They were very near bankruptcy, in fact. Honestly, one of the reasons they agreed to take on a film so controversial like Frankenstein in the first bloody place was because they figured, well, we can't be more broke. You know? I mean, we're out of money, so what difference does it make anyway? And they did it. They actually made a huge success. Frankenstein was still one of the most successful movies of all time, by the way. It spawned several other movies with the Frankenstein name, and really because of it, we got, you know, Dracula, the Wolfman, the Creature from the Black Lagoon, the Invisible Man. Phantom of the Opera was technically older. It was a silent film. But, and while it's held in its own reverence, I'm going to be completely frank with you. No disrespect to the great Lon Chaney Sr. Yeah, Phantom of the Opera was not the same success as Frankenstein. It's not even close, financially at least. I'm not sure which one I like more personally. I mean, I love both of them. I mean, all those movies are very important to me personally. I keep saying we need to just do an episode talking about those movies. I guess that's kind of in the Halloween spirit. Maybe in the near future. Maybe for our Halloween celebration we'll talk about them more. But anyway, the fact of the matter is, the reason you have Universal Studios today is because of Frankenstein. To put that in perspective, let's just point something out. No Jaws, no Jurassic Park, no E.T., no King Kong. Let me see. What else do we got here? Bishop, give me some other famous Universal iconic films.
Creature from the Black Lagoon, Jaws, E.T., beliefs.
But you get my point. Backdraft, another movie. Wasn't Braveheart Universal?
No, that was...
Braveheart was not.
That was Disney's R-rated thing.
Oh, I know what you're talking about. But yeah, my point is that there are, Universal Studios is one of the biggest, most iconic film studios. And in 1945, if it wasn't for Frankenstein, they probably wouldn't exist. Icon Studios.
And
which was a subsidy of Disney. I always knew there was a reason I didn't like that movie. Now I know.
No, I'm wrong on that. That's not Disney.
Oh, they weren't Disney?
I don't think so, no.
Oh. Anyway, my point is...
No, that's not Disney.
My point still stands that Universal Studios wouldn't exist if not for Frankenstein. So probably a lot of your favorite movies would not be a thing. Universal also helped bring the Toho films to America. So Godzilla, there you go.
Godzilla.
Yep. I mean, we could be here all day listing off all the Universal movies, but you get my point. But there's one other thing that Frankenstein did. It brought together not one, but two of the most important groups ever in the history of horror. The Four Horsemen. Now, the Four Horsemen of Horror, which there's two groups. There's two Four Horsemen. So I guess there's 8 horsemen, I guess? The original 4 were Boris Karloff, Bela Lugosi, and then Lon Chaney Sr. and Lon Chaney Jr., who we, of course, know as Frankenstein Monster, Dracula, the Phantom of the Opera, the Wolfman. These 4 men were the horror genre in the 40s and even into the 50s. They were infamous. In fact, it's kind of funny. There were stories of a horror mafia. You couldn't cross one of these guys because the other 3 would protect him. But here's the funny thing. That all started with Boris Karloff in Frankenstein. And then Boris Karloff went on to work for Hammer Studios, who also made their own series of Frankenstein and Dracula movies, which is where we get the second generation of the Four Horsemen. Vincent Price, Christopher Lee, Peter Cushing, and Peter Lorre. Some people argue about Lorre, because to be fair, he didn't do horror as much as the other guys. He was more of a mystery and drama kind of guy. He loved stage work, actually. But he's still considered a fourth horseman. Some people say Rothbone, because he played Dracula too, back in the black and white era. But, no, not really. The bishop's just looking at film lists now. Anyway, though.
To clarify what I said earlier, Touchstone Pictures created by Disney so they can release R-rated adult films without having the Disney logo
on. Okay.
A lot of their movies are not necessarily R-rated,
but they're more mature. They're not family films.
Yeah, like Who Framed Roger Rabbit, Good Morning Vietnam,
things
things like that.
So there's a great movie to take your kids to.
Yeah.
Good Morning Vietnam.
So Touchstone Pictures is Disney
is what we were
the
thinking
80s
of.
and 90s.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Bit of clarification there.
Not Braveheart.
Not Braveheart. Didn't make Braveheart. But anyway.
Kristoff, Con Air, R-rated, Air Force One. R-rated films like that.
Yeah.
Disney.
Get off my plane. One single good line in the whole movie. Anyway, though. But my point is that it's interesting because you really can see these ripples from Frankenstein through all of horror. Going even to a degree to modern day. Because again, like I was saying, picture the mad scientist for a moment. Okay, you got that image in your head? Okay, you're thinking of Victor Frankenstein. Let's be completely honest here. That character created the whole concept of mad science. Even though, to be fair, there were scientists doing all kinds of horrible and bizarre and strange things way before that book came out. Way, way before that movie came out. But still, it's such a huge impact. I was saying how Bigfoot is kind of... He almost transcends, being a legend. He is truly iconic. And I kind of would have to say the same goes for Frankenstein. I know it's more the monster specifically, partially because Boris Karloff did such an amazing job bringing that monster to life. He used to joke, real quick before I finish what I was saying, he used to joke that he would actually take naps when he was sitting in the chair to have the makeup and stuff put on him. He was like, yeah, I'm just going to sleep. So supposedly they literally put that face on him while he was unconscious because it took so damn long, and he can't get up and stop. Once they start putting it on, you're stuck there, buddy. So he literally would just lean back and be like, yeah, just wake me up when it's done. Which oh goodness. Oh, hi, Rosie. Here, you can sit right there. Here, actually, so you don't jump out at me again. There you go. Being a bit temperamental. He would just lean back and take a nap while he was being turned into the monster. But he also actually helped design the thing. Seriously, we could probably talk for a whole night just about that movie and the career of Boris Karloff, who, in my personal opinion, it's kind of sad. Because he's so iconic for playing, big, scary monsters and stuff like that. And he himself hated the sound of screaming. Today, we would say he suffered from anxiety. He hated screaming. He hated people raising their voices. Of course, he's also almost 7 feet tall. He was literally a gentle giant. And it's funny because he was so huge and so big and so intimidating, but yet 9 times out of 10, if you look at pictures of him with like Bella or Lon Jr., he would often actually stand behind them. He really was very antisocial, very timid. Fun side note, a lot of women loved him. They hung out with him. There were even speculations that he was secretly gay because he had all these women that would hang around him, and he never made advances on them. He never did anything, And that's because they liked to be around him because they felt safe with him. And he preferred to be around women to men because he always felt that like men were judging him because he was so big and they thought he should be tough and stuff like that. Which is kind of funny when you picture the Frankenstein monster, want mate. And he was just like, men jerks. It's kind of funny. He loved to sing too. Most people don't realize this. He actually was the narrator for the original How the Grinch Stole Christmas. And the whole reason he agreed to do it is because they promised he could sing. Are we having technical difficulties? Bishop's just over there in the corner having an aneurysm or something. Anyway, though, but...
I think we're still live.
Are we still... Wait, what's... Is something...
Yeah, no, I just kind of...
How's the chat doing? Hi, Connie.
We dropped frames and... Yeah, but no, we're still live. Just had a hiccup. Yeah, no, we're good.
Con Air. Con Air, The Rock. Were those Universals?
Con Air was Touchstone, The Rock.
Well, no, it's just that Sean is like mentioning how his whole room is covered in posters of Con Air because he loves Nicolas Cage.
Because I mentioned Con Air was from Touchstone, which is a subsidiary of Disney. The Rock, and then I mentioned Con Air and The Rock are like my two Nicolas Cage movies. Though he's great in everything, of course.
Wait, Mr. Bishop, that was Karloff, who would come out before the film?
Buena Vista Pictures is The Rock.
Okay. Hi, Connie. Boy, howdy. I close out the chat and it's just like, what the heck is all this? I guess it's kind of fitting for the theme of mad science that everything is going insane here. And we keep getting off topic.
We dropped like 10,000 frames and a couple people are saying they lost us and I lost us, but we're still live. It booted some people.
My mom says she lost us? Hold on a second here.
No, my dad, he lost us, but he got back in. We're still live. We just had a random hiccup. Like it glitched. It's telling me we dropped.
Okay, she's saying she's back. Okay.
Yeah. I got booted too from my phone, but everybody's back.
Everything looks fine on my end. What's funny is supposedly tomorrow there's supposed to be this big storm coming, and I was really hoping that for the night we talk about mad scientists, we would have this big roaring storm with like lightning and thunder and things like that. Sean says we need to talk about horror movies, specifically slashers, so he can tell everyone why Texas Chainsaw Massacre is the greatest movie of all time.
Scream.
Frankenstein. I will admit it's not my favorite horror movie. I love Invisible Man, Creature from the Black Lagoon. Well, there's some thunder, I guess.
When it comes to slashers, I gotta say Scream.
Slash. Okay, I'm gonna set the internet on fire and make everyone hate my guts. Scream 2.
Scream, okay.
But honorable mention to I Know What You Did Last Summer. Because I said, I think it was last week I mentioned that, or the week before. I've mentioned before how I argued I Know What You Did Last Summer is the textbook, step-by-step how you do a slasher. Huh. Well, welcome back, Mr. Bishop. But anyway. But, yeah. And here's the thing: is I've been so excited for this episode. I love the whole thing of mad scientists, and I can kind of tell I'm scattered. It's like I want to talk about everything, I love this genre. I love this theme. But what do you say we get into some real mad scientists? And remember how I said but by the end of the night, I'll make everyone hate my guts, and everyone will think I'm a bastard. Before I do that, before I say that thing, I'm going to introduce you all to your new least favorite doctor. I guarantee you, everyone's going to hate this guy. Except one person in the chat who knows who I'm talking about. Vladimir Demikov. I think that's how you pronounce it. Demikov? I think that's how you pronounce it. Bear with me. I've only seen this name on paper. I don't know if it's supposed to be pronounced a different way. But Vladimir was a scientist who served the Soviet. He was, I want to say, a battlefield medic, a surgeon, actually, if I'm not mistaken, during World War II. He was hailed as the greatest surgeon in Russia. He specialized in transplants. Now, to be fair, in the 1940s, that was very crude operations back in the day. That's something that I feel I'm just going to get this off my chest. People just take technology for granted. Like, people don't realize how much better things are now, even than just like 10 years ago. And then you go all the way back to like 1940s. You know what I mean? Like, there's stuff we have right now that the wildest science fiction would never have, dared to say could be a thing. So that's the kind of sad thing. He was a great scientist. He was a great doctor. He was. He saved lots of people's lives. He even coined the phrase transplantology. But because that was his specialty, and he said his great ambition, was to take a head and put it onto another body and get it to live. But that's not what we really were going to be talking about tonight, because in the 1950s, he carried out a series of experiments that made even the Soviet gag in horror at what he had done. So, for the record, there are photographs of what I'm about to talk about. I cannot show you them. His experiments with transplantology were so horrifying and so graphic that I'm not even being funny. Yeah, they would probably turn our stream off if we actually showed them. So we're not going to, Mr. Bishop. We're not going to do that. But his preferred test subjects were dogs. He became famous for creating two-headed dogs, specifically. Because remember, that was his great ambition. He wanted to take and do a head transplant. And his test run was taking big dogs, taking small dogs, and stitching them together to create these two-headed monstrosities. And there's the bishop running off to find these pictures that we absolutely cannot... What are you doing? What are you doing over there? What the hell? What on earth?
Mars Attacks.
Is Universal?
No, where they sewed the lady's head onto a dog.
Oh my god! Oh god, I forgot that.
I didn't mean to interrupt your stream. I just wanted to show you the computer so you could see it and be like, oh yeah, Mars Attacks.
That's right, they did.
Where they sewed the dog head onto the lady and the lady's head onto
the Chihuahua. That's right. I remember. Well, we were talking about Universal movies a minute ago. Leave me alone.
And you literally said sewing dog heads onto dogs. I'm like, oh, Mars Attacks.
Well, for the record, Mars Attacks was much funnier and nowhere near as horrifying. Like, I'm going to say this right now. I mean this sincerely. Don't think I'm trying to hype this up or be funny. If you don't know what I'm talking about, if you have not seen the photographs of what Vladimir Demikov did, don't look it up. You are happier not knowing what I know. And I mean that sincerely. His work was truly horrifying and monstrous. Now, what's funny is that initially he actually hid this research. He hid it even from his own masters in the Soviet. Because again, he claimed this was just practice. This was just the practice run to transplant a head. Because again, that was his great ambition. That was his goal. You notice that's a weird ambition, isn't it? Like, think about it. Like, Victor Frankenstein wanted to prove that he could be as great as God, and there's all these other scientists who do these horrible experiments, for the greater good and stuff like that, and we'll talk more about that in a little bit. But Vladimir was like, I want to just put a head on someone else's body. Come on, you can at least have some quack. Yeah, talk about a freaking quack. Am I right, guys? I don't have the chat open, but I guarantee everybody's like, this guy's a bastard. No, he truly was. He was horrible. But he got caught. And he got caught by the best thing to get caught by. Somebody with a camera. He got caught and a journalist took pictures. But here's the funny story. The photographer who took the pictures knew the Soviet probably wouldn't care. Because it's the goddamn Soviet, you know. Let's be honest here. Not the most moral institution in the world's history. So what they did was they took those photos and they sold them to America. You know, the United States that was looking for any excuse to flip off Russia. And America just ran with it. And there was not a magazine or a newspaper or a news broadcast that wasn't talking about this monster doctor from Russia. Literally making monsters. His most famous one was what he referred to as 24. It was his last project, the last dog he made, which was a combination of a German Shepherd named Tramp and, hold on, I have it here, I swear. I believe it was a Pomeranian named Shavka. Tramp and Shavka. And basically what he did was he amputated the lower half of Shavka and stitched that dog up onto Tramp's shoulder. So this poor little Pomeranian was just hanging off of this German Shepherd's shoulder. And he managed to actually fuse the bloodstream. So they were both living. Shevka still had her heart. I think it was her. Their heart, the Pomeranian heart, but basically it was all Tramp. Tramp was basically keeping them alive together. And here's the sad part too. Apparently Tramp tried to actually take care of his new little buddy who lived on his shoulder. He would actually like lower himself down so that she could eat food or get drinks from a water bowl. The thing is that this monster of a doctor, and I'm just going to throw this out here real quick. I use that term very, very loosely. Because I'm just going to say it now. A doctor is a healer. A doctor is a healer. There was nothing healing about what Vladimir Demikov did. Okay? Nothing good came of it. He did not save any lives with this research. He did not, give us new insight into anything. He was a monster with a scalpel, and nobody stopped him. That's what he was. That's why he did it. Worst of all, he didn't intend for this thing that used to be two dogs to live. He actually intentionally did not meld Shevka's esophagus to Tramp's. So when she tried to eat, it literally would just fall out between her stitches. Most of his subjects, and he called them 24 because he had done 23 previously. They were the 24th thing that he stitched together out of animals. Most of them, fortunately, only lived for a few days. Sadly, Tramp and Shevka lived for, I want to say, how many days did he get out of them? Hold on here. I have it written down. I swear I do. 4 days. They died after 4 days. And just because he was this much of a little bastard, by the way, he claimed that it wasn't through his fault. He claimed that Tramp while scratching an itch, had ripped his own windpipe. Yeah. Funny, you ever notice that? It's never these doctors' fault. It's always the patient or my personal favorite is it's in God's hands. You know what I mean? It's never their fault, though. It wasn't that he was a monster who did this to two innocent creatures. No. It was the patient's fault. However, after people learned about Tramp and Shevka, even the Soviet Union looked at him and was like, "What are you doing, comrade? What the hell? What was the point of this experiment? What are you doing?" And he acknowledged that it was literally just practice. It was just practice for transplants. And he even commented how Tramp and Shevka weren't even his longest living test subjects. He claimed that he actually kept one of these chimera nightmare things alive for like about a month. I couldn't even begin to imagine that nightmare. You know what I mean? Being stitched to another living creature. But anyway, what does the Buddhists say? Karma got to him in the most hilarious way possible. So officially, he died from a blood condition. There's some confusion about it. Some people say, "Oh, it was leukemia. It was this or that," but it was something in his blood killed him. Well, if you believe the ghost stories, he contracted rabies from one of his subjects and used an experimental medication to try and treat it. Keep in mind, this is the 1950s. So the thing where they stab you in the stomach and it's like ungodly painful, they didn't have that yet. But supposedly that medicine that he took, he willingly gave himself to save himself from rabies that he got from one of his dogs, it actually slowly was eating away at his blood cells. And so, about 5 or 6 years later, he mysteriously died from a blood condition. But as the ghost story goes, it's because he basically took poison to try and treat rabies that he got from one of the dogs who he stitched together and turned into a living Frankenstein monster. But hey, I mean, I guess it's kind of true what they say. Every dog has his day, right? Oh, by the way, real quick, when he found out that America was talking about him, he actually got very offended. He claimed that a child nation like America had no right to sit in judgment of a much older country like Russia, which I find hilarious because even the Soviet Union was like, "You don't bring us into this. We didn't tell you to do this. No, we didn't pay for this." As far as anyone will ever know. Because it's the fucking Soviet. But anyway, real quick. I guarantee this is going to be like everybody's favorite episode. We're talking about stitching poor innocent dog. You know, that's a rule in horror. You don't kill the dog. You don't ever do anything bad to the dog. Anyone else can die. Anyone else can have horrible things. You don't mess with the dog. That rule is like in place because of this douchebag. I'm curious, what is the chat looking like? Shaw, I lost my connection right before you explained your bad takes. Open eyes. Open eyes. Really? Evil quack. I just... Good riddance. Stephen King. Yeah, Stephen King loves breaking that rule. So does Spielberg. Spielberg loves to kill the dog in his movies. Mad Max, Lost World, Jaws 2?
To clarify, Mad Max was not Steven Spielberg.
But yeah, I'm saying, like, it's a rule, okay? It's a rule. We all know it. You don't hurt the dog. And if you do, you're an asshole.
Last Voyage of the Meter, which we talked about a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, they...
Spoiler warning.
Yeah.
The dog dies.
John Wick. Although, to be fair, that was the point, was that they broke the rule, that you don't mess with the dog.
Yeah, and that's why he, like, whooped everybody's...
Stephen King can piss off. There you go. Yep, that's my dear sister, and I agree, by the way. But anyway, yeah, no, this was a real... Does Pet Sematary count? I mean, the whole point. Yeah. That was a cat, wasn't it?
That was a cat.
Well, still, I mean, same thing, same rule. You don't mess with an animal. Gomez Adam, I remember he said once. It was in the live action show. He said something to the effect of, there was someone in his house criticizing that he had a painting of someone getting guillotined. But he commented how he could never bring himself to hurt an animal. And Gomez is like, well, yeah, animals are innocent. Most people deserve to die. The cat in Pet Sematary was named Church. Neat.
See, I feel like the main point of the movie is that the pet dies, it doesn't count.
It's not, yeah.
But, I mean, still, the pet does die.
I need to see...
John Wick.
I still need to see John Wick, actually. Everyone says you should see it. You should see it. And it's like, well, eventually I'm going to. I promise I will watch John Wick at some point.
It's good.
But anyway, yeah, that was you want to talk about a dark chapter, right? And I think the thing that makes it so bad for me, the reason that I have such a problem with Vladimir, is that it wasn't even for something. You know what I mean? Like let's just address the ugly thing in the room here. Sometimes you have to do bad things to get to a good result. Sometimes the ends can justify the means. And we can debate over that on different topics, sure. The thing about Vladimir, there was no reason. He wasn't testing out new techniques of splicing veins and stuff like that. It was literally just his warm-up runs. You know what I mean? It's like, it wasn't even for something. And he didn't even, he literally planned for these creatures to die. He actually found them inconvenient. Like, how dare you live after I've performed a hideous operation on you? Oh, hi, Jeebus. My big buddy, Jeebus. Hey, buddy. But, you want to lighten up the mood? How would you guys like to lighten up the mood and talk about a bit more of a silly mad scientist for a minute? A pair of them, in fact. I actually like these guys. A brother team. Hello, Frontier Studios. A rather fun pair, one of my favorites, the Wright brothers. Which I know a lot of people are like, wait, what? They weren't scientists. They were engineers. They were engineers, and they still performed experiments. Their experiments weren't what we would call unethical. They were self-dangerous. In fact, actually, they hurt themselves a lot. Supposedly, they actually did hurt themselves quite a bit. But what's funny is, we all know them as, of course, the fathers of flight. They got the first motor plane that could actually fly. A lot of people use the term a heavier than air craft, because technically speaking, balloons were a thing, sure, but they had their own problems. The idea of a machine that could make you fly was fancy. I mean, you may as well be talking about King Arthur pulling Excalibur out from a stone or some crap. You can't fly. If you were meant to fly, God would give you wings. And what's funny is they were told that by, I want to say, their father. And they said, well, okay, God didn't give us wings. he gave us the knowledge to make wings, though. And what's even funnier is that their father was, they always said their father was the reason they got into it at all. In 1878, they claimed their father bought them this little toy rubber band helicopter. And don't joke, okay? Hey, you know what? The smallest seeds, right? The smallest seed. They played with this toy, and it just blew their mind. In fact, they actually went and, in true mad scientist fashion, improved it and actually got it to stay in the air and hover like a real helicopter for like 2 minutes off a rubber band. So, yeah. Supposedly, sadly, it broke literally a few months after they got it in the first place. So they made their own. Both of them claimed that little stupid toy that probably cost like back then, what, 2 cents? You know, probably literally a couple cents. That simple little toy made them just love to tinker and build and tweak and, most of all, be off the ground. And they went to the drawing board a lot. What's funny is they had day jobs. That's something I think is actually really interesting. Is everyone talks about, oh, I don't have the time to do this. I don't have the time to do that. It's like the Wright brothers built the world's first airplane while also running a bike shop. They built and repaired bicycles. That was their day job. That was their income. And then on the weekends, they'd go out to fields. They worked out of Kitty Hawk, North Carolina. And they tried a lot of weird contraptions. The funny thing is, most of their contraptions were made of wood. They at first, they were like, metal might be too heavy. But they hurt themselves a lot. One of their most
All right, we're back. You're back.
We're back?
We're back.
Hey, Bishop.
Sorry about that, everyone.
Hey, Bishop. I remember what I forgot now.
To put batteries in.
To change the batteries in the thing.
I didn't even think of that.
Oh, I gotta look at the chat. How is everyone? I thought I was deaf. Yay, science now. I lost sound. What happened to the audio? Struck down in the middle of a... I thought my Jeep's bed's broke.
Sorry about that, everybody. I just forgot to change the batteries and they died.
We're back, though. Anyway, so what was I saying? Anyway, though, yeah, they...
The Wright brothers' mentor.
Oh, yeah, their idol was a man named Otto Lilienthal. Lienthal. Yeah, how that...
Otto
Lilienthal? Lilienthal? Either way, Odo. His first name was Odo. And he specialized in making gliders and kites and stuff like that. And then he very abruptly died. Supposedly, he actually died because of one of his own little inventions malfunctioned. And he got killed that way. But either way, it was a warning to them that they needed to, get off their butts. And so, using the money that they made from their bike shop, and also borrowing tools and recycling bicycle parts, they made all kinds of contraptions and doohickeys and weird stuff that they thought they could maybe get off the ground. One of their most famous inventions was, of course, the wind tunnel, which was something that allowed them to test gliders without actually having to throw them in the air or lift off in a kite or something like that. And basically they figured the key had to be with gliders. It had to be with the wind. You had to find some way to use wind to create lift, to make up for your weight. You know what I mean? And it took years of creating weird-ass machines and all kinds of stuff. And the funny thing is, a lot of them, they actually... they it's weird, because, like, anything was worth a try. Any kind of design, whatever they wanted, was worth a shot. But they actually were very shy about, being seen. They didn't want people to see them and their failed experiments, so they were kind of secretive, which is hilarious when you think about it. They're building these big, most of the time, wooden machines that are supposed to pick people up and carry them through the air, but they were trying to do it secretly. In secret. It didn't go well. They were very famous in their little town of North Carolina. Everyone knew about those crazy Wright brothers who were just bound to get themselves killed. Doesn't help that Wilbur Wright was a hypochondriac, apparently. He was always convinced that he was going to die. He was always convinced that he had some ailment, that something was wrong, that he was going to, it was the end of Wilbur. Here it comes, everybody. And apparently he actually ticked some people off, because he would write letters saying, hey, I'm probably going to die in the next few months. It would mean a lot if you could come and visit, or, or if you would, you want to help us with our experiments and things like that. And, well, a few months go by and he's fine. There was nothing wrong, but he was always so sure. Yep, I only got a few days left. I'm going to die soon. And a lot of people say that it was his brother Orville who he was the one who was the more reasonable of the two. He was kind of the practical thinker, and he actually handled a lot of, like, the finances and stuff like that, while Wilbur was off dreaming up new schemes and new ideas. If I'm not mistaken, Wilbur was the one that actually flew the plane. It flew for 12 seconds. He flew it for 12 seconds. And the funny thing is, he didn't even go the distance of a 747. A 747 is longer, just in its size from the nose to the tail, than the distance he actually flew. But he flew. He flew. And he safely landed, and then they were able to recreate the experiment multiple times. I mean, spoiler warning, the Wright brothers actually paid off with their experiment, and we have flying machines now. I don't like to fly personally. I prefer road trips myself. I love how people sit there and say, you know, oh, you're safer in an airplane because there's nothing for you to hit. Yes, but if a bus breaks down, you don't have a 100,000, foot drop between you and the ground. Your bus breaks down, you walk off some steps. A plane breaks down, my condolences. Yeah, I mean, I'm just saying, no one's ever made a joke about, any bus trip you can walk away from, right? No, it's any plane crash you can walk away from. But no, I would argue they were mad scientists. Not because of ethics per se, but because of how reckless they actually were. Like I said, they banged themselves up all the damn time. They had, because again, we all know their famous biplane. The biplane is what really worked. It was not their first contraption. Most of the things they built, they didn't even bother giving names because it was like, this isn't gonna work. But if we don't try it, we can't say we tried it. You know what I mean? So they literally, could you imagine that? Your brother's like, okay, it's your turn. Get in that one. No, it's not going to work. Of course it's not going to work. But if we don't try it, we can't say that we tried. So you get in that one. I can only imagine. They had to be very lucrative with that bike shop. I wonder if people actually bought from them out of pity. Like feeling bad for those two crazy brothers, I don't know. Because, I mean, like...
Those two crazy air-flying brother people.
Well, they weren't air flying yet, but they never had any kind of financial backing. They never took out a loan. Wilbur didn't want to take out loans because, he's going to die in a few weeks and he didn't want to die with debt. So he wouldn't take out loans. They literally did all their research over years, building things, trying over and over again, hurting themselves, going to the hospital probably every other freaking week. And they did it literally just because of their bank, because of the bus, or the bike sales, selling bikes and repairing bikes. So real quick, if you ever feel like you don't have a means, I can't make a movie, I can't make a comic book, I can't do whatever, I don't have the resources, I don't have the time, buddy. A pair of losers with no freaking friends, who everyone was kind of felt bad for, with nothing more than a day job in a bike shop, literally unlocked the secret of building a plane. What the hell is your excuse? I'm not wrong. People sell themselves short way too much, man. Seriously. Be like a mad scientist. Be a mad scientist about it. Mad scientists don't give a damn if they can't actually succeed. They're going to do it anyway. Find a way to do it. Find a way to build a plane. I mean, what's the worst that happens? Also, for the record, Sean, I can't see what you're saying in the chat, but shut up. I know you're going to say something snide to that comment, so shut up. Shut up, Sean. There's a new trend for the show. I'm kidding, of course.
You're so mean to him. No, he's very mean to you. You have every right.
Are you trying to tell you have sympathy for the residential Lord of Chaos?
No, he bullies you all the time.
How is the chat doing, by the way?
How
So watch, he was like just saying something like, your hat looks really nice. He was complimenting me.
He would never say that.
Jesus, I never said anything about... What? What? Wait, hold on. What happened? Average doohickey enjoyers. You know what? That's my new favorite term for an insane engineer. A doohickey enjoyer.
Oh, no, I'm not defending Sean. No. Absolutely not.
It's your turn in there, Wilbur. Yeah, I don't know if I'd say the Killdozer guy was a mad scientist. He was more just mad at everyone. There's more success and failure than there is succeed. That's, yeah. Tara, I'm fat, tired, and I don't want to take my family down with me. Woman, get off your ass. That's not mad scientist talk right there. Jeez, come on. Oh. You know what else I forgot? Oh!
Choopy.
Hi, Choopy. Go play with those goats over there. Oh, back! Oh! 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 Can they hear me?
I can't now.
Oh. 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 They say you just put your head between your legs and wait for the pain to go away. Oh. What you guys don't realize is that Famine's ears are kind of pointy. Oh. Something's behind me. Hi, Rosadoo.
Are you okay?
Oh. Ah. Oh. Oh. You know, it's funny. That was sincerely incredibly painful, and I can only imagine people in the chat who love me, my adoring fans, are probably very concerned for my well-being. They're not going to be after this next topic, though.
Yeah, we have a little bit of fun before you get...
I've been warning you guys. This is the episode. Everyone's going to hate my guts for what I'm going to say. They're going to be like, yeah, throw Choopy at him again. Get him, Choopy. Oh, no, what I was saying is, this chair is way too damn big for me, which is saying something because I'm huge myself. But normally we have pillows behind my back, and we don't today. So it's actually very painful. And then my dog just totally headbutted me. Thank you. How nice of you. My dog just totally headbutted me in the groin with her actually really pointy freaking ears. Oh. Oh!
Stop it.
Stop! Go over there. You. Maybe I should send you to Mr. Bishop. Stay down there. Stay there. Good dead dog. Oh, I'm amazed no one's made a play dead joke yet. You don't want to headbutt me in the groin, do you, little guy? Yeah, you can stay right there. Oh. What's in the chat? Can we get that on replay? No! I didn't want any grandkids anyway. You got 3 grandkids, Mom. Jeez. Nice instant replay. God. I knew they would all find it hilarious and love it. I don't, though. Oh, this hurts. This is the episode I was looking so forward to. What's wrong now? You'll be nice. You'll be nice. Someday we'll just do a montage of all the times I got hit. I want to point out, I'm literally just sitting here on a couch. We're not even, like, going anywhere. We're not doing anything. And somehow, I am constantly being battered and assaulted.
We're not even doing hot sauce.
We're not even doing... I know, right?
One day we'll do a montage of all the best moments. Her falling into you, Troopy hitting you, the hot sauce blasting me in the eye, you dying from the hot sauces.
This was literally supposed to be like my favorite episode, and I've spent so much of it being hit.
I think it's a lot of the chat's favorite episode right now.
Well, yeah.
It's going good, isn't it, chat?
You know, I half expect like Mr. Bishop or Sean is gonna find some way to take that audio and like make it their ringtone. Just me screaming out.
No, that would be Kobold or me. I could do that.
I know you could. The Vagrancy Horrors, greatest hits on Kristoff. Very funny, Open Eyes. I'm really in pain, for the record. I guarantee somebody in the chat's like, oh, he's hamming up. No, you don't understand. This dog's ears are pointed.
Show the pointy ears.
Okay, they are pointed. Now, they're not like dagger sharp, but first of all, this is actually a very durable, hard critter. No, I'm dead serious. By the way, real quick, because I know the Mr. Bishop, you were saying you wanted one of these. I have tried my best to find you a famine of your own, buddy. Here's the problem. Literally the only one I've been able to find is from some seller on eBay who wants like $170 for it. Drama queen. Oh, piss off, Tara. Ugh. I don't see you sitting in front of a camera getting things thrown at you and dropped on your genitals. I don't want to, but I'm saying the point stands. Everything's easier when you're not the one. Ugh. Yeah. Anyway, though. There are two more scientists that I want to talk about. And it's funny that everybody's laughing and stuff. You know, everyone's having a good time, right? We're all having a good time? Yeah, well, I'm about to put a stop to that real damn fast. How do you say kill the mood in Japanese? And it's funny, is I guarantee I said the word Japanese, and like, I guarantee at least one person knows exactly where we're going. Unit 731. Yeah, we're officially not laughing anymore, by the way. So, for those of you who don't know, 731 was a medical unit that worked for the Imperial Japanese Army during World War II, and actually before World War II even, actually. I don't think it was called 731 before WW2, but it was the same unit, headed by the Surgeon General, Dr. Ishii Shihiro. Now, during World War II, specifically World War II, it is believed that, roughly speaking, there were some 300,000 victims to this insane project. Most of them were Chinese, but there were also Koreans and, disturbingly enough, even other Japanese people. There was some ghost story I heard about in a team of Americans that also were tested in the projects, but I couldn't really find any more information about that. I bet you Mr. Bishop probably could actually elaborate on that one. That sounds like something that Mr. Bishop would know. But anyway, it really all stemmed from Ishii himself. Dr. Ishii, he's an interesting card. He's also a very difficult card to talk about, and I'll explain why in a little bit. But he how do I put this? He was a man of ambition. Specifically, his ambition was that he would be the man who conquers death. He always went on about the future, a better future, a greater future, a deathless future. That was his goal. And to get there, he exposed people to poison, bombs, extreme cold, extreme heat. He had them beaten. He had them amputated to see how long can you live without an arm? Just no medical attention. How long does it take to bleed out if you lose an arm? Now, for the record, no, none of this was even close to ethical or humane. He specifically did not use anesthetics in his research because he was afraid they would compromise the data. That was the thing. The data had to be pure. It had to be pure. It didn't matter what someone with painkillers goes through when they're exposed to sub-zero temperatures, because if you're exposed to sub-zero temperatures, you're not going to have anesthetics. Probably one of his crowning horrifying achievements was he actually created a synthetic strain of Yersinia, which is bubonics, the Black Death. He literally resurrected the Black Death and released it into China mainland, specifically the Chengdi city, the city of Chengdi. And it's interesting because supposedly he never batted an eye. In fact, a lot of other doctors who worked in Unit 731, they said they were afraid of him because there was nothing sacred to him. He would do any test. He would test on anyone. He did not care about ethics or anything. He kind of put the mad in mad scientist. He was truly insane. And in 45 or 46, he was captured in either 45 or 46. I think it was 45. He was captured, but before he was caught, he specifically told all his subordinates, take every writing, every document, every folder, anything written down, keep it on you, and then burn every building. Kill every test subject. Nothing of Unit 731 must be left except the things we have written down. And then he was caught. Some stories famously portray it that he was literally caught while fleeing from one of his burning laboratories even. But anyway, when he was caught, there was a bit of a complication, let's say it that way, because Russia wanted him. China obviously wanted him. I mean, he hit them with bubonics. And America also wanted him, because we're the ones who actually caught him. We captured him. And Russia wanted to hang him. China said, no, he's a Japanese person. He should be forced to perform harakiri. He should be forced to kill himself. And he literally turned around to the American government and said, I'm more useful to you alive. And supposedly he was actually even asked by, like, I want to say it was like a cabinet. I remember the cabinet, the presidential cabinet spoke to him, and they straight up asked him, why should you live? Why shouldn't we hand you over to the Russians or to the Chinese? And there's dispute over what he actually said, because obviously he wasn't speaking in English. But the rough translation is, he said, because your grandson is going to use medicine made from my research. And so America was like, okay, we'll give you a shot. And that's actually why he ordered everything in 731 destroyed, including the test subjects. Because this was his one bargaining chip. If you wanted the information that he gained from these experiments, you needed him alive. Because no one else involved was left. It was him and his assistants. And so he basically used that as the world's most lucrative bargaining chip to avoid the gallows. Now, here's the weird thing. Because it's undeniable he was a monster. He did horrible things. I cannot right now on this stream go into the deeper details of what he did in his experiments. I'm literally not allowed. Under the agreements of YouTube, of this platform, I can't tell you what he did. I can only tell you what I've told you so far. I can't show you pictures. I can't show you clips because they were that heinous, that unspeakably evil. But he always swore up and down that it was for the greater good, that it was a good thing would come of it. He would master death so that no one else had to die. And what's interesting is that of course, everyone has an opinion. And this is where I'm going to make everyone hate my stinking guts, I know. But here's the thing. When push came to shove, he kept his word. He went on to work for the U.S. government making antitoxins, basically making cures for poison, using his research. Everyone talks about hypothermia treatments. Yeah, guess where those come from? From his personal notes. Antibodies for anthrax. Guess where? I mean, to be honest, yeah. Probably a large portion of life-saving medicine and techniques that we have today, whether it was good or evil, it was evil. I admit it was evil. Either way, it came from him. And what's interesting is that, yeah, as soon as he was out of Japan, when he was in American custody, he stopped the experiments and he continued working to make medicines. There are some stories that he actually fled back to Japan, and he changed his name and he lived in some rural town where he became, of all things, a pharmacist. Supposedly he was a pharmacist for a while in Japan under a fake name, and he basically would give people medicine for free or at a discount. How's that for the evolution of a mad scientist, to turn into a literal quack, giving people prescriptions? I'm trying to make this lighthearted because it's not. I acknowledge it is not a lighthearted subject. But here's the thing. I'm willing to give him some credence. Not because of the experiments, but because no one ever wants to talk about this, but the way he died. See, Ishii had throat cancer. By the way, don't smoke, kids. He developed throat cancer. And he was given they were like, well, we can do something. We can treat it. We can try and save you. He said no. His whole life, he sacrificed other people to master death, to learn about how does the human body actually die. And then when he had to stare death down, I'm not joking, by the way, he picked up a scalpel and said, fair is fair. He experimented on himself to study the cancer that was forming in his throat. Supposedly he actually, he took some samples of his flesh and took it to a university in Tokyo. And he asked a bunch of med students, tell me what you think of this perfectly healthy skin tissue. The problem is that all the students knew who he was. They knew this is Dr. Ishii Shihiro, the Japanese doctor. And so they were all afraid to say anything because he said it was perfectly healthy. It wasn't. It was riddled with cancer because it was from his own throat. But they were all afraid to say that. They didn't want to contradict a famous doctor like him. And so they all went, no, it looks perfectly fine to me. Yep, this is the nicest skin sample I've ever seen. It's it's great, it's wonderful. He told them they were all idiots and that they shouldn't ever become doctors because they would get people killed. He literally told a classroom of college students at a university students in Tokyo, Give up. Go home. You are all terrible. You will never be doctors. You will get people killed. Being a doctor means saying and doing the things that normal people can't do. That was his philosophy. The reason he did these experiments in his own twisted mind, and he was twisted, but I'm saying there's a difference between malice and madness. He was crazy. But it should be pointed out, he wasn't like a great example of Adolf. Adolf hated the world. He hated the world, everyone in it. Yeah, he went after Jewish people and black people and homosexuals first, of course. But do you really think eugenics would have stopped with just the Hebrew people? Really? You really think that he wouldn't just kill all the French next? And all the Spanish next? And all the Chinese next? Adolf Hitler hated the world. He hated it and he wanted everyone in it gone. One way or another. Ishi was batshit crazy. And in his twisted, warped mind, he was actually helping the world. He was going to save it. And if we step aside from ethics for a second, if I can plead the devil's case here, let's be completely fair. 300,000 people were killed because of Operation 731. That is true. That is confirmed. How many people have survived just because of Ishi's hypothermia research? Hundreds of thousands, millions maybe by now? I'm not saying that it makes it okay. I'm saying that this is not a simple topic. Ishi was a complicated man. Fun side note, actually. He, in some stories, he actually got baptized and converted to Catholicism and changed his name to Joseph. I'm not joking. It's true. He did get baptized. I don't know if he officially changed his name, but he did get baptized and he did take up the baptismal name Joseph. And the reason that I will defend Ishi, and again, like I said, I told you were going to hate my guts when I said this. It was funny. I was writing this stuff up. I was like, someone's going to literally say, "Are you defending a member of the Axis?" In this case, yes. Because again, whether he was good or evil, and I'll agree, he was evil, he was fair. He didn't try to cheat death himself. He said that he would sacrifice anyone and anything to master death. And he was willing to sacrifice even himself. He studied and vivisected his own throat just to watch the tumors grow. And, you know, I like I've always said, here, I'm not for or against anyone. I just want the story. I just want the fact. And the fact is that be he ever so mad, be he ever so depraved, and even though he more or less was responsible for the deaths of 300,000 people, over 250 million, even still, you cannot say that he was dishonorable. Because when it was his turn under the scalpel, he didn't object. He said he would sacrifice anything. And he meant it. And he did. What's interesting is that a lot of people try to slander Japan because Japan, for a long time, denied 731 was a thing. There's also people who get on their high horse. Oh, Japan never apologized for 731 and stuff like that. It's like, you know, I feel like it's a cultural thing. Because Ishii was popular. Like, the people of Japan agreed with him that what he was doing was horrible, but it was moving towards a good thing. And so, I kind of understand why Japan has refused to apologize. It's like, well, first of all, it was a different Japan. That was the Empire of Japan. Modern Japan is a republic? Yeah, they're a republic, I think. I want to say they were classified as a republic. Not sure. What kind of government are they now?
More republic than we be.
Yeah. What are they? What are they officially?
What is their unitary parliamentary constitutional monarchy. Because they do still have an emperor, but the emperor...
He's like a celebrity.
Really power. They're kind of like Britain.
Yeah, okay. Oh, so
the king, queen.
Constitutional monarchy.
Yeah.
Okay, well, so they're a constitutional country. They have because they're the whole thing. They're like us. It's their whole government is built around the Constitution.
Yeah.
Well, ish, kind of. But anyway, so a lot of people sit there and say they should apologize, they should admit it, they should address it. Why? It's not going to bring those 300,000 people back. And yeah, it was a different government. And on top of that, culturally, Japan has always been kind of weird. I know. Here's a quote for you. Japan's kind of weird when it comes to death. You know what I mean? Like, culturally, they've always viewed death differently than in America. I mean, seriously, you want to have a culture shock? Watch the unedited Japanese version of the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. Jiminy Christmas, that show. That's traumatizing. So the original Japanese Power Rangers is terrifying. I love Power Rangers personally. They're still awesome.
Yeah, watch Power Rangers Zeno and then watch the actual Japanese version.
It's horrifying. People die left and right in that stuff.
Yes.
They've always had a very different attitude about death in Japan. And so, and again, people are like, well, they're like the Holocaust deniers. No, they're not. Holocaust deniers are a completely different thing from Japan feeling like they shouldn't apologize for Unit 731. And like I said, I agree with you, Ishishiro was completely insane. But I don't know if I would say he was evil. And again, this is where where everybody's just like appalled by me. I kind of don't even want to open up the chat. I'm afraid of what they're saying in there. It's like, he's literally defending an Axis doctor. Yes, I am. Because fair is fair. Do I think it was a good thing that he did? No, they were cruel, unethical, and violent, sure. But the world isn't that simple. I guess is the best way to put it. The world's not black and white, good and evil. It is possible to be a horrible person and also an honorable man. It's complicated, kiddies. It's very complicated. But even more than that, it's tragic. I have never more wanted and not wanted to open up the chat than right now. What's that ominous glow out in the distance? Actually, I actually like how Tara put it. Yeah. No, it was horrible, but in a weird way, they didn't die in vain. Something good came out of it.
Well, the only people who should say that are people who actually underwent what they went through, so...
Yeah, it is one of those things.
It's easy to say when you don't suffer what they suffered. So.
This is true. I'll give you that. I'll give you that. Yeah, I have to admit, I'm kind of surprised.
It's like everybody who says, oh, well, we need less people in the world. I agree.
How about you?
Here's a knife, you go first.
Yeah, and like I said, I'm not saying he wasn't evil. I'm not saying that 731 was good. I'm saying that it's more complicated than just, this is good, this is bad. It was way more complicated. And also, personally, Ishii is a much more complicated thing than he was just a mad scientist. Because again, he wasn't a hypocrite. At the very least, you can say he wasn't a hypocrite. They did die horribly, Mr. Bishop. Literally, we can't talk about it. What I told you is basically all I can say. And there's a lot of people who sit there and say that they knew they were doing something horrible. They knew they were doing bad things because they always covered their faces. Well, yeah, most of their work was with poisons and germs and biological stuff. Of course, they're going to protect themselves, but no, I'm trying to remember. Because some people say that the Geneva Convention, the Geneva Convention laws was because of 731, but wasn't Geneva before that?
I don't know.
Because I've heard that people say that 731 gave us Geneva, but I'm not sure. Wasn't Geneva from before World War II? That sounds like something that that Mr. Bishop, your dad, could answer. When was the Geneva Convention?
I want to say it was after World War I, but I'm not sure. Hold on.
Yeah.
1949.
19...
Yeah, negotiated in the aftermath of the Second World War, which updated terms of... Yeah.
Mexican... What? Jesus? He was here in the chat a minute ago. Sean's asking about a Mexican alien. Jesus is not here.
Okay, yes. It was on the news this morning. Apparently something in Mexico, they're unveiling... They revealed alien bodies. I've seen these pictures. They look like statues. But they're alien bodies, according to the Mexican government.
What the hell goes on in this freaking planet when I take a nap? What? Jesus, you have some explaining to do.
Do you want me to describe what it is politically?
No. Okay, look. We are already on the verge of torches and pitchforks with me coming out to defend Ishii Ishiro. I do not need you saying what you really think with a live microphone.
I'll say...
After we turn it off, then you can tell me all about it. But
look at the countries that are obsessed with aliens and look at the countries that aren't.
I'm obsessed with aliens. What's wrong with being obsessed with aliens?
Distraction. But okay, no, what he's talking about is the Mexican government...
saying they have aliens.
Alien bodies.
Okay. I'll have to look that up later. Okay. News to me. Okay. I want to see an alien.
Yeah, these little things.
Hold on. What the hell? Oh my god. Aliens are made out of stone!
Yeah.
That's a statue. What the hell?
It was all over the news this morning and I ignored it. Just like...
I can see why. It looks like someone made a statue of a raisin.
Mexican ufologist claims to show 2 alien corpses to Mexico's Congress. I know a guy down at the truck stop. He's a Bigfoot expert. He can get you whatever you want on Bigfoot.
Zeus, the hell I do know what's going on. That was a wonderful distraction from that horribly dark topic. Thank you, Sean and Bishop.
The best way it was described to me is look at the countries who are obsessed with these aliens and look at the countries that aren't. And that'll tell you a lot about the governments of countries.
See, the problem is that I'm an avid, unapologetic UFO enthusiast and Viva Sean would like to talk to you, Mr. Bishop.
I literally saw this all over the news this morning. I'm like, this is crap, and I ignored it, and now it's coming up everywhere to wonderfully crash your show.
If the butt cheeks aren't spread, it's not real.
It's true. It's true.
See, we don't have to agree on everything. We can have controversial opinions and still laugh and be friends with each other and everything. That face, though, I'm sorry. That is so real. It's so real, though, says Sean, and I'm just...
Mexico's Congress heard testimony from experts who study extraterrestrials on Tuesday, and the hearing started with a huge surprise.
Oh, God. You got psyoped so hard, non-believers are done for.
Oh, don't get me wrong. I'd love there to be aliens. That would be so awesome, but...
That doesn't look... That looks like a statue. I don't get it.
No, okay, and let's be fair here. Okay, fine. Mummified, fossilized.
Okay, it could be it could be like a mummy fossil thing. So they just kept that under wraps all this time, though? Like, what? You're showing me something, and I don't understand what is the story here.
I don't know the story.
Do alien... Tara, I'm not saying that out loud. I am not asking that question out loud.
Here to play devil's advocate, okay. Mummified, how long does it take to mummify something?
Depends on you can get it pretty fast if you treat it right.
How long does it take to fossilize something? About
naturally
6, 7 years?
Naturally, a long time.
How long does it take to make clay? So, okay, playing devil's advocate, these things could be really old.
They could, yes.
And
were they found recently? Have they been just kept hidden? Like, I don't
know, but of course the government would want to keep it covered up because the government has to be an ultimate power.
Yeah.
So they deny anything above them, and of course aliens would be considered above them.
Yeah. Same with deities and so on.
And it's just now coming out, but then again, back to the political thing, why are you distracting us with aliens when
we're
in Europe?
Yeah.
But
I wonder if they ever found any alien bodies during or before World War II or World War I.
But you've also got to ask, okay, if it is a government cover-up, why are they exposing it now?
Well, my question is...
And if it is real, why is it...
I can just hear the voice of my grandfather. If they want us talking about this, what do they not want us talking about? There's an episode. We need to talk about conspiracy theories.
I'm just going to say it. Russia. They don't want us talking about Russia. But I'm hijacking the show for everybody listening. Everything you hear, always ask why.
Always.
If it doesn't make sense,
ask why more.
I'm especially speaking about religion. From my religious perspective, always ask why. If it doesn't make sense, don't believe it.
Mm-hmm. You know what's funny is my grandfather probably would say the same thing, just with government. Actually, no, he always said never trust anyone from the government. The most scary thing you could ever hear is, I'm from the government and I'm here to help.
And I'm assuming for the show, everything you say, people should ask, why? Does this make sense? Yes? No?
Yeah.
If it doesn't make sense, ask why it doesn't make sense.
Hey.
If it makes sense, ask why it makes sense.
Hey, I just pass on stories. I'm not trying to persuade or dissuade anyone from anything. I just want to tell these stories and talk to people. You know what I mean? Yes, conspiracies. I love conspiracies. I don't know, man. There are some conspiracies that it's like nowadays it's more like spoiler warnings, but either way.
But to play devil's advocate, okay, it was covered up. They're mummified, fossilized. So.
Yeah. See, like I said, it's that image just gives me more questions. But anyway. Anyway, though, we're just getting a laundry list, aren't we, of stuff we need to talk about. But before we go, because it's almost 9 o'clock. I feel like this whole show has been just jumping off the rails back on and then jumping back off constantly.
Well, we need something happy after you talk about that.
Yeah, I agree. Like I said, I'm glad that we were able to laugh, because again, I'm sincerely going to say, like, I almost didn't talk about 731 and Ishii, because I was like, they're not going to like me defending this guy. They're not going to like me defending that. And I was sincerely kind of worried about, angering you guys and stuff like that. But I'm glad we can all laugh about it. And Tara, for the record, no, I'm not going to quote that question that you posted in the chat a minute ago. Did you see that, by the way? Tara's question?
Was it to me?
We're not going to answer that. We're not even going to quote that. That's...
Oh.
You look so disappointed.
I was going to say most of them. But...
Good night, everybody! No, hey, stop that. Hey, what are you doing? Trippy! Wait.
He's behind you.
Ah! Protect me, Gluttony.
It's all me right now.
Anyway.
Who was the last one?
Who was the last one? Because that's right, there was one other doctor I said I wanted to talk about, and these were going to be really uncomfortable topics. This last one's really obscure. Also very recent. I kind of had to do some digging. This was a doctor, I guess kind of a doctor. He was a psychiatrist. I guess even if he wasn't a doctor, he still did mad experiments, so we're going to count him. And screw you guys, it's my show, I can talk about who I want. A man by the name of Dr. Howard Phelps Indio. Infamous in Southern California, in, of course, our beloved city of Amistad. He was very... it's funny, he was always kind of controversial, especially with his ties to the Brawley family, of course, of the Encompass fame. He was, I guess, what would you call him? The administrator? What is the head of a medical ward? Because Administrator? Yeah, administrator. He was the administrator of Amistad Mental Health. Under him, there were a lot of odd coincidences and conspiracies, if you get what I mean, and I think you do, which led to Amistad Mental Health getting the nickname Indio's Asylum. Stories that he would take patients who were inconvenient to local gangs or to certain politicians. Of course, again, as we mentioned, he had ties to the infamous Brawley family. But the big thing that he's most infamous for was an incident that happened, I want to say this was like, it was not too long ago, it was the early 2000s. It was the early 2000s. He was apparently out of town when a fire marshal had come to do an inspection of the building. Because, technically speaking, it was a government-operated building. Amistad Mental Health was controlled by the city. So they had to have regular checkups and stuff. And this fire marshal discovered that there was actually a sub-basement to the building. Now, the building itself is actually very old, and I'm pretty sure it's still functioning. I still think Amistad Mental Health is still up to date. I'd have to double check that, but I'm pretty sure it is. I wouldn't go there. I wouldn't go there with this history. But anyway, apparently it was a actual asylum way back in like the 40s, the 1940s, before asylums were more or less done away with by the U.S. government. But this second basement, this sub-basement, was originally sealed away because there was no need for it in the building's current capacities as a mental health ward. And apparently Howard found it, reopened it, and had been using it as a base for doing experimentation, specifically psychological experiments. The marshal, who actually went in there, I have his name here, Phil Stevenson, Phil Stevenson's Uger, German guy, I guess, Phil Stevenson's Uger. He actually took leave of duty after he went down there. He commented that you would need the National Guard, and he wasn't going back down. Apparently, he had been taking patients from the mental ward who were, how should I put this nicely, wouldn't be missed, so to speak. You know, people who didn't really have family, homeless people, anyone who could disappear. He would have them moved into this sub-basement. Apparently he had a couple lackeys who worked for him, who went and helped him. But it was him, big time. And he would perform psychological torture. Now, the problem is we don't fully understand why he did these things. Because apparently he caught wind that they found his basement, the sub-basement, and so he came back to it and got all his research, his notes and stuff, and was able to flee. There's a million different ghost stories. Oh, he fled to Tijuana. Oh, he went up to Canada. he ran over to Germany, ironically enough, right? You know, the funny stories about how all the German scientists fled after the war, and then he fled to Germany. I mean, pick your poison. Pretty much any country, there's some version of the story where he fled there. He's down in Argentina, because that's where all mad scientists retire to. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. But anyway, when they did go down there and they actually got those patients out of the cells, it was horrible. He had been doing everything you could imagine to them. Waterboarding, starvation, insulin overdosing, literally anything to scratch and claw at these people's minds. There are some weird stories about how he did leave behind some weird stuff. Like there's claims that he had some like books about the occult, and there's ghost stories about how there were all these weird circular patterns that he drew or had drawn on the walls and things like that, and so on and so on. Again, make sense of it, I dare you to. But from what little they were able to actually discern from this, it felt like, you know the expression building a better mousetrap? He wanted to know how to disassemble the better mousetrap. He wanted to find all the ways you could make someone go insane. Every way you could break a person's mind. He was obsessed with it, which is kind of sad when you consider that he was a psychiatrist. He was supposed to be the guy that puts people's brains back together, you know what I mean? But we never know, to this day, we don't know why. What was he doing? What purpose did he serve? Was he working for someone? Again, we know he had ties to the infamous Brawley family, and supposedly he had connections with various gangs and criminal organizations. I mean, hell, go to Amistad, throw a rock, you'll hit one of them probably. There's so damn many. There's a reason they call it the godless city in America. But anyway, yeah, I personally would argue that that's mad science. Not traditional mad science, but it's still an unethical human experiment. It's still wrong. It was still pushing boundaries. But yeah, it was horrible. There was one story I heard about how one patient they found in one of those cells, he was in a restraint jacket, right? And so they thought he was being, held hostage. So they actually undid his restraints, and he proceeded to actually try and pull his vein out from his wrist. He was being restrained not as part of the psychological torture, but because he was trying to kill himself. And I mean, obviously, when the police and stuff were trying to stop him, he kept screaming, "Let me die, let me die. Only death can get me away from him." Again, make of that what you will, but apparently he did everything you could do to the brain. And we know next to nothing about why or what he was like. What the little things we have is that he wanted to find the best way to drive someone insane. Take bets. Hell, chat, take your bets. Why on earth? What was he doing? Why would you want this information? The U.S. government set him up somewhere else. Why would he want that? Who do you think he was like? Because again, that's always the conspiracy, was that he wasn't the puppet master, that there was someone he was taking orders from. He served someone. But until further notice, we'll never know. Howard Indio, he got the hell out of there, which I think is interesting. Like, because again, the fire marshal Phil found it by accident. And the reason he found it was because Howard wasn't there to protect it. But, like, apparently, he was working for the CIA. The sad thing is, it fits. Yeah. This sounds like something the CIA would want to do to people. U.S. Yeah. Yeah. I'm proud of you, chat. I'm proud of you guys. But, no, we don't know what he... But again, that's the conspiracy theory, was that he wasn't doing this for himself or by himself. He had some kind of help. There's even stories about that, like, you know, in the span between when the fire marshal found his laboratory, basically, and when police and etc. were able to get there to actually investigate it, somehow he was able to get back in there, get all his stuff, get all his records, get all his files, and get out unseen. Nobody saw him. You know, it's like, that almost sounds like, I mean, we're going to go into creepy, spooky territory here. There are some people who argue that it was supernatural. I mean, people talk about how, well, you know, when they searched his house, he had a house over in Palm Springs, of all bloody places. In Palm Springs, they found books about the occult, about paranormal and supernatural stuff. And other people trying to say, well, wait a second, what about all the weird circular patterns and crap like that he had drawn in the laboratory? You know, which most people say he himself was insane. I can't imagine that. The man who locked people in cells in a sub-basement and tortured them might have been insane himself? I love how everybody is just saying U.S. government and CIA.
True.
There's going to be a knock on our door. Just remember, if I suddenly disappear, I am not in any way, shape, or form interested in auto-asphyxiation. Just throwing that out there. I'm just saying that right now, just in case.
You're going to get a knock on the door from a certain mouse.
What was his name? I want to look him up now. Howard Phelps Indio. Dr. Howard Phelps Indio. He operated in secret door. Oh, okay. No, that's a good point. My mother brings up a good point. He could have had secret entrances to the sub-basement. Because again, everyone says, like, how is that possible? How could he have figured out that they found out, get there before they got back to it, and get everything out unseen?
Really good point.
I'm not going to say it out loud because it's too fun. This is too much fun. Anyway, though, yeah, that actually does make sense. I mean, it makes sense because he went through efforts to keep it all secret. Yeah, you would probably want a back door. I mean, shit. Most people will tell you if you make software, what's the first thing you do when you're designing software? You make a back door. Yeah. So yeah, it makes sense. But anyway, boys and girls, oh, Jiminy Christmas! This has been the most painful episode. This has been the most painful show, and I mean that sincerely. My back is hurting. You are in timeout. You're supposed to be my good girl. Jeez. Anyway, though. I hope you all enjoyed the show. I hope you all had a good time. The damn dogs. But next week, we're going to be doing a special treat. Yeah, next week's the 20th, right?
Yes.
Yeah. We're going to be talking about... And it's funny because I was really excited about this episode. I was like, oh boy, I'm going to get to talk about mad science and mad scientists. I can't wait. This is going to be my favorite episode ever. Well, you know, there's kind of a price to pay because next week we're going to be talking about a topic that I know is going to give me hell. Next week we're talking about witches and witchcraft.
And Jesus is joining us, right? As we're going
Jesus will be joining us. We're going to be trying out... We might try hot sauces, kind of. What we're going to be doing is, because witches are always cooking stuff in their cauldron and so on. You know, so what we're going to be doing is we're going to be talking about witchcraft, and because it's a very touchy subject, witches and so on, we're going to try and lighten the mood talking about, you know, cooking recipes. You know, because like witches are always cooking stuff in their cauldrons or cooking children into pies in their oven and so on. So we're going to be talking about culinary arts and witchcraft. And my mucho grande big buddy, Jesus, will be joining us. And, let's just say that since it is Halloween, you could say we're going to have some tricks and treats next week. So be excited, boys and girls. On behalf of everyone, I am Kristoff N. still the Prince of Darkness. Don't feel like the Prince of Darkness after this show. Choopy, our dear technical chupacabra. We got the bishop over in the corner.
I'll be on next week. Yay.
Well, no, of course you're going to be on the show next week. We have my dear dogs, our new snake friend who has yet to have a name. There you go. Before you leave, give us a suggestion for the snake's name. Famine is in timeout. She'll probably be here next week. I might send her to the I don't know. Maybe I will send you to Mr. Bishop. Maybe I will. I don't know. You're in timeout though. Yeah. Leave a suggestion for the snake's name. We'll be seeing you next week when we talk about witches and cooking. But in the meantime, as always, keep checking the shadows.